Rocks? You can't be serious. It's true. Everything they've ever done has been to get better at throwing rocks. Caladan turned his attention back to the scene of chaos before him. A ripple across the image had him slapping away the offending hand. Quit jostling the bowl. Sorry, you can see it's true though, right? He didn't need to look to see the excitement on his partner's face. Of course she was excited. Anyone would be excited by their field of study. I could tell you if you let me look for a moment. Within the waters of the Scrime Bowl was the image the two contemplated. His partner had started leaning over his shoulder to get an angle. Smoke rose into a bloody sky. The ground was churned and torn, soaked with blood and offal. The spell hadn't been keyed for sound, but Caladan could imagine the shrieks and screaming of combat, and the cawing of the gore crows above the haze of uncontrolled fire. It seems like there's just as much lightning and fire as rocks. Well, yes, but they're interdisciplinary. Exploring other fields brings with it the contamination of inspiration. She sounded like she was quoting something. Likely some of her own written work, and, he supposed, the underlying matrices of some of the more complex spells did lend credence to the idea. Some of the little pale figures were propelling boulders with explosions, or dropping them through rifts. Caladan couldn't disagree with the idea that one only got so far, just hurling rocks. So, what is it specifically you wanted to show me here? Look at the surroundings. You'll see it eventually. He sighed at her evasion. She couldn't ever just up and tell him anything, but, well, it wouldn't hurt to humour her. Wars were nothing new. Blooded fields, corpses everywhere. There was one nagging question, however. Gormans were known for their fleshy monstrosities, behemoth constructions as much alive as functional. Curiously, there didn't seem to be any of the truly large ones. There were those that dwarfed the humans, yes, 2 and 3 times their height and sweeping aside as many armoured little bodies as a result. But where were the siege beasts? Surely a frontal assault just outside human gates would have been the perfect opportunity. Perhaps even the fabled Crake would have put in an appearance. Overkill, surely, given its mountainous size, but the lack of even lesser siege beasts was odd. Where are the behemoths? I imagine at least Leviathan would be there. Good question. Keep looking. You'll find them. He couldn't help a quick, annoyed glance at the woman. She sounded entirely too pleased with herself. Or was it what she had already scried in advance? Well, if the siege beasts were in some form present, where were they? Caladan grumbled quietly as he turned his attention back to the scene in the bowl. A few deft manipulations of the spell had his perspective shifting to get better angles on the carnage all around. After a moment, a bit of oddness made itself known to Caladan. He hadn't quite noticed it when he kept the perspective of the spell still, but the terrain looked odd. He was familiar with this particular plane, the city beside and the gulf just beyond. Or at least, he thought he was. The mountains bordering the thing didn't look right. The hand at his shoulder squeezed, and he had to stifle a wince at his partner's obvious glee. She had noticed the direction his thoughts were tending. Another few subtle finger gestures maneuvered the image again. There was a valley where there shouldn't be. And over there, a peak where there should have been flat. Of course, he had missed it the first go-around. His initial perspective had put the mountain behind his point of view. But there it sat, bold as could be. Caladan felt his jaw starting to drop, and his partner felt to stifle a gleeful little squeal at the sight. He wasn't ready to accept what he was seeing just yet. Another alteration of the spell allowed him to take a deeper look. And there sat the sickly malevolence that stitched together what was known only as the Crake. Soundly buried under the rubble of a mountain moved. They killed Kraken? His partner was practically bouncing on her toes as she nodded. They killed Kraken. And with a rock, no less.